Good. Obviously, hey, wish we were talking about the weekend coming up, but you know what? You go and you play and reassess, and we had some good meetings yesterday with the staff, and we'll get with the team on Monday. You know, give them this week's off, and with it being spring break, you know, they're different guys heading home to Detroit and stuff like that. And just a good week, I think, to regather and kind of get out there. And you know, looking at it, you know, obviously kind of a tale of two seasons. In the first half, I was just talking to Coach Izzo about it, even coming out of the Great Lakes, you know, good game against Western, beat Tech in overtime, and it kind of positioned ourselves with a, you know, liked our schedule the second half, and you know, positioned ourselves, and then, you know, just depth-wise, you know, once Louis went down and we lost Griff, that you know, put it down in our top six, and you know, the guys that had to bump up, you know, weren't able to kind of keep that same rhythm going, and then we get Louis back and we lose Jeremy and Davidson, another one of our really young scorers. So it was a little bit. I was talking to Coach Chuck earlier today about, you know, and he talked about it after the Ohio State game, is that you have enough guys, but you know, he talked about recruiting after that depth of guys that you need, and to get through the Big Ten season. And like I said, that was an area where we couldn't find it. I thought the last few weeks we played pretty well against Notre Dame, and a couple good games against Penn State. We're doing some things decently, and I thought we battled pretty well and played the way we needed to play on Friday night against Michigan, and you know, it was a pretty good hockey game. And then the next night got away from us quick. You know, I think I said after the game, got shots were 5-4 for us, and it's 3-0, and that's not where you want to be against those guys. And so, you know, a tough finish to that, but again, not to lose sight of where we're at and how we build forward. And when I first got here, there's certain things we wanted to do, and you know, we talked about the 4 things, and it was identifying, you know, young student athletes that we thought could help us, and you recruit and try and sign those guys, and that's changed from the first 2 years to the last year immensely in terms of I'd say the infiltration and the kind of guys that we're getting to visit here, and the visits. We'll address Munn in a little bit, but you know, progressively gotten better and better, and feel good about the guys coming in next year, and we'll continue to build that, and you know, we'll do some things through the portal as well, and you know, there's some changes that need to be made. And we talked about Munn and getting that back to being a really tough place. Our student section's unbelievable. I think we're 7th in attendance this year. 2 years ago, we were close. We were a little higher than this year. I think with COVID made some things harder, but I think we got up to 6th 2 years ago. So, you know, that's moving forward. I think Munn's a great place, like I said, in the student section. And, you know, I think that'll continue on. And then the last one was the Munn renovation that really tied everything in, and that's had some delays, and that's, you know, hey, no fault of anyone's here, just, you know, COVID, construction shut down for 2 months in the state of Michigan, and that set us back a little bit. But I do think that since we got the weight room on, I think we've had 4 young men come through and see that weight room finish, and I think we're 4 for 4 in terms of guys that are coming here that have seen that, and I think that will make a difference. So as we move forward, like I said, there's going to be some changes, and you know, that's with guys transferring in, that's with the freshmen coming in, and we'll probably be, you know, at least 7, probably 10 or 11 different guys next year. We do have 8 of our 10 top scorers coming back. That's good. I think our goaltending will be a strength, and we move from there. And I don't think we're you know, maybe as far away as other people might think we are, but like I said, you got to drive that depth, and that drives practice, that drives competition, and you know, we get to the end of the year, we had 12 forwards and you dress 12, so you know, you lose a lot of that. And again, that was something I was talking to Coach Tucker about this morning, just in terms of practice and that competition and the accountability. When you get down to those numbers, you lose a little bit of that. So that'll be addressed, and we'll move on, and we'll have a great spring and a great summer. And you know, you get into it. I was in the office fairly long yesterday and spent a lot of time Sunday on the phone and doing video. And hey, you turn the page, and you have to be ruthlessly introspective and see what you got to do and plan your work and work your plan. And that started Sunday. So that's where we're at.
country.
You mentioned the depth portion of it. So, I mean, you said obviously there's a lot of new guys that are going to be coming in. Are you going to be more, I guess, aggressive in the transfer portal, or how are you approaching that when it comes to the depth standpoint?
Yeah, well, I think when we had our numbers, we were fine. Like I said, we lost a player before the season started to a season-ending injury, and then you lose Louis. Then and you only have so many things, and that was just. Yeah, that's just the luck of the draw when those things happen. So that's it. But going into next year, yeah, we will. I mean, we are fairly aggressive. I don't know exactly the numbers. Like I said, we lose 7 seniors. There may be 1 coming back, so you're really looking at 6. And then, but I am thinking that probably at the end of the day, and that'll be addressed either with a high-end incoming freshman or through the portal, that will probably be 8 to 10 new guys. So we will make some changes there, and if that's through attrition or just guys that we add on, we'll do that. And we're looking at when we assess players and all that, and the guys coming in, we're saying, hey, who helps us beat best team in the country, who helps us beat Minnesota, who helps us beat North Dakota, and if they can help us, then those are the guys that we want to add.
You just mentioned that you have a bunch of seniors leaving, and that includes some leaders, Denny and Louie. Are there any juniors or even sophomores who kind of stick out as guys who can take that leadership role next year? Yeah,
I think there's a few guys, and a lot of times those will bubble up over the spring through workouts and summer, just with a lot of seniors leaving. And now there's a bit of an opening. But Josh Nodler, he was one of our assistants, and he's a hard-working guy. He's an honest guy, well respected, and I'm sure he'll be in our leadership group. I think some of the other guys that have jumped in. I think Eric Middendorf has been a guy that's been a captain on a lot of different teams, and he has a certain presence and holds guys fairly accountable. But if you look up and down our roster, a lot of our guys have been captains where they've been at before, and I think you'll start to see that. A guy like Jesse Tucker's only a sophomore, but he's got some real good leadership qualities. Was a captain for a couple years in Green Bay. As a sophomore, it might be a bit of a jump. Same with Tanner Kelly. He's always been in leadership. Aiden Gallagher was a guy that's kind of always been a captain. So I think there'll be guys that bump up, and like I said, there's a vacuum there, but there are certain guys that whether you have a letter on or not, leadership's leadership, and some of those guys have already started showing that. And hey, we gotta. You got to take, Jocko Willing talks about, hey, whatever happens, good. You know what? If it's what happened to us there, hey, we found out a lot about our guys, good. It'll make us work harder in the off season, darn right it will, good. We'll make the players work harder better, or there'll be changes, so good. So, you find out the same about leadership, but I think there's a lot of guys in there that'll bump up.
Oh, there seems to be a sense of urgency with your tone right now. Maybe, and I'm not saying you didn't have it for other years, but it seems very pronounced right now. And I'm just wondering what's driving that, number one, and also have you, and what about this year drives that? And also have you met with Alan and talked with him postseason yet and everything?
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, we have spoken. So not since I got back late Saturday night. Elliot Daniels, their sport coordinator, through the athletic department. So he popped over yesterday. So yeah, we have. But where I envision this program being is not where we're at right now. And hey, that's part of the chase, and maybe some of that urgency is. It was a tough run there, and it took a lot, I guess, in terms, the players staying on board, which I'm real impressed in the way they worked and the way what they stuck with. And like I said, it wasn't easy, but like I said, they did some stuff in there that was impressive, and I like seeing that. And hey, as a staff, we had to kind of keep reinventing some things, and I've been through exactly the same thing, but I will say that the first year with the NTDP, the U17 year is very similar to that, where every Monday you're coming in and trying to figure out a way to move things forward. So I guess maybe that spurs you on, and but like I said, I wake up Sunday morning and I'm trying to figure out to make Michigan State hockey the best that it can be next year, and that started then. So that's kind of the way I roll. So hopefully the players understand the urgency. Hopefully they watch the press conference and pick up on that. You're a pretty sharp guy. I'm not sure they're as smart as you, Graham, so we'll see. But yeah, there is, and then that's how it should be. And I'd be I'd be upset with myself if there wasn't that urgency. And I think there's a good, like I said, a good base of guys coming back, and I think we've got some plans on some guys coming in, and hey, that excites me. And like I said, I work. You know, it's not work; it's fun. So, but that's where I'm at right now.
Dan, you know what it takes to win here and at all levels. You talk about being ruthlessly introspective. What do you personally have to do better next season?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. That's the most important question, Jack, because you want to change the world, change yourself. And you know what? I went through, again, this is me on Sunday. I wrote down everybody that's on our staff. I wrote down, I guess, every compartment, not department, but compartment of things that we do, whether it's recruiting or practice or video or sharpening skates. I went through everything, and you're always looking for edges, and I went through and said, hey, which areas of this can we do better? And I'm working through that, and most of that's, you know, what can I do better? So, you know, Joe, Coach Extra does a lot of the recruiting, and talking to him today, hey, what do you need from me? How do I need to be better? Do I need to be on the road more? Do I need to be on the phone more? Do I need to be on the road less? On the phone less, you know, whatever that is. But I think I look through every area, and that's where I'm starting with, is what can I do to help the people in those areas to get us better. And this isn't unusual. Every year it's a good time to go through it. We've got some time, and then double back after that, and then we'll start working on where they can improve as well. And the same with the players. We go through each guy, you know, what he needs to do this spring, what he needs to do this summer to get better, to help us. Again, you know, the goal is to get back into the NCAAs, and we were real close. This is a funny thing. 7-8 weeks ago, you know, January 1st, we were in the hunt, and you know, you don't want to lose sight of that, but you also want to say, okay, this way of doing things got us right here. Well, let's get a little better. And I think you do that every year. And I think you know, if you look at the coaches around here, then you know, the gentleman that just got done talking, Coach Izzo. I mean, you've been around since he got here. He's changed a lot, and you have to keep figuring out things, and the best ones do. And like I said, that change starts with me, and I'll be better, and I try and be better every year. So there's things I can do. And a lot of calls out to people and coaches and mentors that I know, and like I said, you start to work right now and get better, and that's what I expect of the staff, and I expect that of the players.
So going back to kind of the amount of people leaving next year, how important is a guy like Nash Nienhuis in a defense that is losing three important guys? He seemed like he kind of rose up the roster and got confidence as the year gone.
He's had a nice bump, and it's funny. Both years I thought it was, you know, a pretty good gradual progression, and you know, he ended up, I think, he had 13, 14 points. That's, you know, that's pretty good for a sophomore defenseman, and you know, he'll have to take on, I don't know if it'll be a larger role next year, because he had a pretty, you know, he was on a power play with Dennis, so I guess you'd say that's our top power play, and he ran the top on that. So, you know, he'll be able to do that again next year. And we look at our power plays, and you know, he'll be a big factor on that. And then 5-on-5 he does as well. So, you know, just the natural maturation. You know, our sophomore defensemen this year will be juniors next year, and Gallagher, Connor, and Nash. You know, they got a lot of minutes in, and you know, they're going to have to carry a bit. Like I said, we are going to do some stuff outside of our freshmen coming in. Matt Bascal's coming in, and you know, he's over 30 points in USHL right now, and he got traded to, you know, from a team that wasn't a contender to a contender. He has 7 points in his last 5 games. Matt's he's a leader. He's a strong player. He does a lot of things really well on the ice. So I think he'll be a lot like Nash, jumping in and finding himself in a pretty good role. But no, Nash's progress has been good, and you know, again, as he gets older and he gets more confident, his assertiveness is what drives him as a player. When he's assertive, he's very good. And as you get more confident, it's easier to do that and shift in and shift out. He'll have to make that jump next year, because it'll be him carrying a lot of the mail.
Can you talk about the seniors that might come back? Is Drew the only one that might come back? Is that the deal?
Yeah, I don't think we haven't announced it. That's one possibility, yes.
Nobody else is?
Not right now, no.
Yeah.
No.
A little tougher question. When you sit off the top, we're closer than people think. Talk to me as though I'm a fan. Why how can you sell me on that? How is Michigan State closer than what it looks on the outside?
Yeah, no, and again, good question. I would say, again, I would say the evolution of where we're at, and I'll go to the first 3 years, and we've gotten a little better every year. COVID was a weird year for everybody. And even this year, I would say that the first half and the position we were in was probably the best we're in. So again, things happen, and what I would say is you don't want to judge a program on a situation that you can't really control. I mean, we ended up where we were. But going into that, I thought we were pretty good. And I think, in my mind, where we were at recruiting-wise, that we were going to be better next year than we were this year. So I was saying we were in, again, going back 7 weeks, we had a decent shot, and we were in the mix for the NCAAs. And that's where I think next year we'll bump up. And that's where I see really where this team was at before. Like I said before, we had some injuries and some key guys, too. It wasn't not just one guy leaving. I mean, we had that was like, telling Coach Izzo, that was like losing Winston. That was a guy that brought confidence up and down the lineup, and to replace that, you just don't do that. You don't go out and find a kid from juniors and bring him in halfway through the year, and it affected guys up and down the lineup. And when he came back, I think we played much better, even though he wasn't full rip, so anyhow, that's how I would do it. Is say, hey, listen, this is the progress we were making, and we were close, and that's kind of where I look at our team from this year. And then we're building on that going into next year. The way our guys play is good, and we're continuing to bring in more and more guys. Recruiting's been good, and it's going to be exciting moving forward.
Didn't you mention the changes from a player standpoint, roster standpoint, but what about staff standpoint? Are you making changes in that department as well?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you review everything and you go through it, and but when I look at my staff and the guys I have, and Coach Luongo, Coach Exter, it's much smaller than that. I mean, really, that's the staff that you're looking at. We have volunteer assistants or video guys and things like that. But in terms of it, it's the three of us, and we work pretty closely. So it's not like there's a lot of unknowns there. But I know these guys, they're loyal. They work incredibly hard, and you know what, they love Michigan State, and one of them graduated here with me. So I don't see that, but you know what, we you have to always have to review everything, and this is 2 days out from us not being in, and right now I'm in as Jack brought up, I'm in the reviewing myself and going through things, but I'm not going to leave many stones unturned this off season.
As far as the portal goes, you brought in 3 or 4 this year. Looking back at that, you had some injuries there and so forth, but what are you learning about the portal and how you can integrate those guys and those type of players into the program, and do you have a set number on how many maybe this year?
No, I don't. I think the way you evaluate it is that young man can make you better. If that man can help you beat the top teams in the country, then that's something you pursue. So we've got a few areas. I think a few of our guys are going to have to make some decisions that are here, and then we'll base it off of that. But I would say 2 to 5 guys through the portal, depending on how things shake out. But if they can't help you, then doesn't, you got to be careful with it too. And you've seen that with some teams that, Big Ten's a tough league, and you better be sure that the young man can come in and play. And we've, Charlie Combs came in last year, did a great job for us. Was one of our leading scorers. Griff, when he was playing here, I think he was his 3rd leading scorer, and I think he was doing fine, but he was just starting to get the feel for the league and understand the strength. And I thought he was really kind of turning a corner, so that was unfortunate. But we've been good in there, and that's what you want to have. You want to have guys that fit in the locker room and guys that can help you win. And you want to avoid, like I said, you go too far, go too crazy, then you lose a little bit of culture, you lose a little bit of your identity, and you don't want to do that either.
You may not want to reveal this, but any positions or roles in mind, or just best player available type of thing?
Yeah, I think best in that sense. There's a couple spots on D, and there's a couple spots up front. And again, if the guys we can get are better than help us win more than the guys that are there, then those guys bump down. That's just the way it'll be. That's sports. That's every year. I guess the evaluation of that really doesn't change so much. I mean, if a freshman comes in, Jesse Tucker led us in scoring as a freshman, ended up as our #1 center. Well, that's on him. You know what I mean? Players decide ice time. So whether it's a freshman or a portal guy or regardless.